you may feel free to take over.
Excellent.
Yeah, MVP, let's
Thank
go.
you so very much for having me today. I just want to preface by saying I've been sick all week, so I have acute laryngitis right now, so bear with me. I know it's painful to hear fellow singers sound like this. So I want to give those of you who do not know who I am a brief introduction. My name is Justin T. Swain. I am an educator, teaching artist, entrepreneur, toddler pianist. I am a late diagnosed ADHD neurodivergent individual. I'm a vocalist, performer, consultant, and lifetime learner. A little bit about my education. I'm a second year doctoral student at Shenandoah Conservatory in vocal pedagogy with a specialization in voice research, estimated to graduate next spring. I hold 3 degrees from The Ohio State University, a Bachelor of Music and a Master of Music in Vocal Performance, and a Master of Arts in Vocal Pedagogy, where I studied with Dr. Robin Rice and Scott McCoy. I have an Associate of Arts from Columbus State Community College, where I began my higher education journey as a non-traditional learner at the age of 21. I have certificates and continuing education in vocal pedagogy from the former University of Wales Voice Study Center, Boston Conservatory at Berkeley, the Shenandoah Summer CCM Institute, and I was part of the inaugural graduating class of the Vocalogy Certificate at NYU. I'm a past NATS intern of 2024's cohort, where we were at Florida State University, and Mike Ruckles was my master teacher and is still an important mentor to me today. I'm a former collegiate professor. I served on the voice faculty at Ohio University's School of Music, first as an adjunct professor of musical theater voice, and then crossover voice and lyric diction. And then they created a full-time line for me, where I served the classical, contemporary, musical theater voice students, and I continued to teach lyric diction. I was the coordinator of musical theater and contemporary vocal studies during that time, and I was a Center of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment Invite Faculty Fellow for those 2 years. I spent 1 semester at Otterbein University as an instructor of voice, where I served primarily the contemporary and musical theater students. And we'll get into that in a couple of slides. And then I'm a 2-time music school owner. I was the founding owner of Musicology's Lewis Center location, and I am the owner of the Swain studio, where we are at right now. So a quick little agenda. We're on the agenda right now. Okay. I will give you an abridged timeline of my career thus far, why I'm sharing my experience, getting into the mindset, my thoughts on many things, where we will spend the most time, and then we will have a brief question and answer and closing remarks section. I ask that you please hold questions until the very end. So a very abridged timeline of my career. I began teaching private voice lessons due to my undergraduate voice teacher, Robin Rice, recommending I do so my junior year of undergrad at a rate of $35 an hour. Believe it or not, people are willing to pay that much. After I completed my bachelor's, I was hired by Musicology to teach voice and piano lessons at their highest pay rate. And then I started my dual master's program at OSU. I did that for 3 years before I was approached by them to open up their 4th location. I chose Lewis Center as that destination, and I did that for 3 years. Yes, through the pandemic. I started it with 40 of my personal students, and I grew that to over 200 active weekly students within those 3 years. During that time, I was hired as an adjunct of MT Voice at OU, and that was in August of 2021. Shortly thereafter, I sold my shares of the Lewis Center location to Musicology, and I returned teaching as a senior teacher in the spring of 2022. I phased out and I began teaching a small studio at a church I previously worked at in the autumn of 2023, at the same time that I was hired as a full-time instructional voice faculty and faculty fellow at OU. In that same academic year, I was selected as a NATS intern, and that's where all of my professional plans really began to shift at the recommendation of friends, colleagues, as well as important mentors of mine. I launched the Swain Studio as a sole proprietor business, and I maintained a roster of, and actually, I was thinking about this last night. It was more along the lines of about 30 to 35 hours per weekend. I would teach from 10 a.m. until 9 p.m. with no breaks on Saturdays and Sundays. And then I would also teach from about 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. on Mondays. Then I would take an Uber down to Athens, Ohio, be down there until Friday, and I would take a bus back up to Columbus, and I would rinse and repeat. So I was working 7 days a week at that time. In that same year, I resigned from my position at OU due to a lot of racism and homophobia I was experiencing in that part of the state after the election, unfortunately. I was then inspired to reopen a multi-teacher teaching studio after I took the Voice Studio Business Management course as part of my doctoral electives taught by Dr. Lysandra Belcher, who one of our attendees, Lawrence Bavelko, also knows. That was last spring. I signed the lease of one of the 3 suites that I now occupy at 1515 Bethel here in Upper Arlington, which is in Columbus, Ohio, last spring. It was May 16th to be exact. I spent several weeks then renovating the original space, and lessons began being taught June 3rd of last summer. I joined Otterbine's teaching faculty, and I resigned after 1 semester because the studio was growing much faster than originally anticipated. And now we are 10 months old. There are 8 of us who work here. I'm the only full-time person. I teach 50 students here. We have 75 weekly students, and we are approaching $20,000 per month in tuition, the majority of which goes directly to the instructors, who are paid $50 to $65 an hour. And I pay myself $40 an hour, and we'll talk about that later. So, sip. As Kate quickly cringes. Why am I sharing my experience? Because it takes a village. I would not be where I'm at today if not for others showing me the way and reminding me that I can do anything I put my mind to. I have made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I had to learn the hard way. So if I can help others progress faster than I did, that's really important to me and my values. I'm an educator. Mentorship and teaching are at the core of what I really, really love doing. And because I want to empower others who may be on the fence about taking non-traditional pathways, post their academic training or otherwise. So getting into the mindset. My business mindset it all culminated when I was running my previous studio as a 50% owner of Lewis Center's location. It was that one person's success in the studio meant success for everybody. If a student and their family shared their experience with their friends, their colleagues, etc., it brought about a greater awareness of the brand, of the school, and it reinforced that there was excellence housed where we were at. So while you personally may not be conducting business in the same multi-teacher studio model that I'm using, this is a moment worthwhile of consideration for all of you because perhaps you'll change your mind someday. To these points, I've surrounded myself with people I am personally inspired by who are responsible, good humans, and they are excellent at what they do. So we will circle back to these questions towards the end, and I'm going to try to Sonic the Hedgehog my way through all of this because I hope that there are questions I can answer at the end. So A, how can you as a private teacher utilize a student's positive experience and support to grow your student roster? How can you create a positive experience from day one for new students? And how can you help foster a long-term positive relationship with students and their families? I have a lot of thoughts and opinions. Surprise. So we're going to go through each of these. It is a long list, and this is where we will spend the most of today on. First and foremost, vision, mission, and value statements. It's why you do what you do, what informs your business's direction, what you hope to achieve, and what is important to you as a business owner. This comes from our website, And this is just stuff that I created last spring as part of my coursework. But my vision statement is our studio aims to provide the highest quality of private music and dramatic instruction in Central Ohio in a multitude of styles from highly reputable instructors of voice and acting while fostering a strong sense of community among its students, faculty, and staff. The mission to connect students with highly qualified music and theater educators to help them realize their artistic aspirations while also affording educators the opportunity to scale their private teaching business to suit the needs of their evolving personal lives. And then the values. You can read them on your own, okay? But it is important to establish a vision, mission, and value statement as it helps direct your business choices, and it helps to inform your potential clients what you specialize in, what you value, and more about how your studio operates. And at the end of the day, this really is what directs all of my choices that I make for the studio. Community is very important to me, which is why I started a multi-teacher studio. Having existed in an academic setting where I was surrounded by colleagues who were highly supportive, once you take that plunge outside of academic settings as an independent teacher, you can really feel like you were just floating on a lonely island. And so by bringing in others who I trust their pedagogy, who inspire me, etc., I'm no longer alone in that regard. I think it's a huge responsibility to provide opportunity, not just to students, but also to fellow teachers, especially those who are earlier in their careers. So, your teaching persona and your professional appearance. It's how do you wish to be perceived in the world? Are you the cool, quirky, eccentric teacher or the down-to-earth, relatable, and friendly older sibling kind of person? Do you have a teaching statement or learning philosophy sheet that you can provide the parents and the adult students with so that they understand your thoughts on music education? Do you have a website dedicated to your teaching? How do new students onboard with you for lessons? Professional appearance is not just limited to what you wear, but how you wish to be perceived as a brand. What you post on social media will likely be seen by potential students and clients if it's public facing, so keep that in mind. How do people find you? The easiest mode for visibility is our social media, thankfully, by posting about what we do in the studio as well as other activities taking place as they relate to our teaching. I enjoy posting selfies with my students from concerts, sharing about my excitement about what a student is achieving in their lessons. But make sure that you have a signed media release form, and be flexible if parents or students ask that you remove those things even after the fact of having that. You don't own your students or their likeness. It is a kind gesture for them to allow you to post them and what they're doing. Do you have a website or a Facebook group or an Instagram account devoted to just your teaching that your students and families can follow? That's a great place to create a sense of community. Are you visible in the community, whether as a performer or a teacher, or both, ideally as both? Be visible, be an active participant in your arts community, collaborate, and be seen. Marketing materials, and we will look at some of mine in a second. Do you have business cards you can give people or leave places? Can you create flyers using Photoshop or Canva? If you're not familiar with Canva, get familiar with it. Invest time to create eye-catching marketing materials or hire someone and keep them on you. I'm a non-driver by choice, and so I take Uber and Lyft everywhere, and I cannot tell you how many times I have met other musicians, and actually somebody that collaborated with Kate several times in the past was one of my drivers, and people constantly ask for my business card, and they come to the studio, which is exciting. Consider premium marketing materials if you have the means to do so. So rounded corners, soft touch finish, thicker cardstock, etc. Consider your brand logo, color scheme, and voice. Create brochures for schools, libraries, and other public places that you can leave them with their permission. Build an eye-catching website. So, I am a solopreneur in that I design every aspect of our website, our marketing materials. I do everything except for our accounting, but I do balance the checkbook and all of that fun stuff. Get yourself a really great accountant if you're going to go the independent route. So here's a playbill advertisement I purchased for Dublin Scioto. This is a couple of years ago. This is the current screenshot of the landing page of our website, which is the swainstudio.com. I was just at Thomas Worthington High School 2 Fridays ago, or maybe it was just last Friday, where I worked with them on A Clarice. We went over the diction, and I left a stack of cards, and I left lots of flyers, and we've had several people reach out for lessons. I have refer a friend cards, and I also create business cards for every single teacher, free to them. And that's just an expense that I personally eat here at the studio. And I also have some soft touch stickers, because who doesn't like a good sticker? Our advertising methods. How do you reach your audience and what's effective in your area? I am in Columbus, Ohio. I am very intentionally located in an affluent area where I pull just a lot of students from all over the city. I have students as far as Parkersburg, West Virginia. I have people from 2 hours north that drive down once a month to work with me, and then we do virtual the rest of the time. But I am in a very centralized location, and there are pockets of affluence all around. And it can sometimes feel icky to think about the monetary aspect of what we do, but at the end of the day, you are running a business and you have to keep that in mind. The organic reach, the word of mouth, is the most effective means of advertising. So encourage your students to write reviews on Google and Yelp. I personally do not use Yelp. I find them to be kind of predatory, and they just constantly call you and try to upsell things. So stick to Google. That's just my 2 cents. Have parents and students tag you in social media posts when there are performances. Join and post in Facebook interest groups. 2 of the about 12 that I'm in, Lewis Center Bubble Networking and Worthington Business Network, and encourage the students that originally find you in those groups to also comment on your posts. I try to make an effort to post twice a month in all of the groups. Tear away flyers and brochures, leave them in public places, get permission. That can also be helpful. And if you have the means to do so, purchase advertisements in school programs or playbills. You're supporting the people that support you. Networking and fostering mutually beneficial professional relationships. I should have put a picture of her in here, but there is a very prominent acting teacher here in Columbus named Krista Lively Stauffer. We share about 30 students, and she has sent me thousands of dollars worth of work over the past 2 or 3 years. And she is located 15 steps from my studio. And so we are constantly sending people back and forth. She's excellent at what she does. And there you go. But ask yourself how you can support local choirs, bands, orchestras, especially if you are someone like Lauren who serves a wide variety of students, not just in voice, but on other instruments as well. Look beyond K through 12 programs, look into community groups as well. I've done vocal health master classes, sorry about that, with the laryngitis today, for church choirs, and that has yielded wonderful relationships over the years as well. Volunteer to assist with sectionals for school choirs, bands, and orchestras. Reach out as well to churches, arts organizations, retirement homes. You never know whose grandchild needs lessons. And ask them if they want free entertainment. You don't always have to be paid for what you do. And also check and see if there are any mixer events that you can attend. Those of you in Central Ohio, you could have come here. We're mixing very socially. But be creative, be insistent, and be brave. Shoot your shot. The worst somebody can say is no. Social media considerations. It's free to post on Facebook and Instagram. Do not spend thousands of dollars on sponsored posts a lot of the time. I mean, how many of you actually sit there and you take the time to watch and then you scroll? No, that doesn't happen. I'm trying to see what my friends are posting. So just don't spend the money if you really are strapped for cash. Use social media to connect with new audiences. It's a tool. Remain connected with your current and your former students and families. That is so important. I just had lunch with one of my students who I had for 6 years, and then she followed me down to OU. I had lunch with her mother, and we caught up, and she painted cabinets here at the studio over the summer when I needed an extra hand. So create beautiful connections with people. Don't shy away from encouraging your students to brag about you and your lessons on their social media pages and have them tag you. You will reach their audiences that way, and that is free. And remember to tag others to reach their audience as well. And here's just a screenshot of one of the Instagram stories that I post to advertise one of the folks that just started teaching here at the studio. Professional development and continuing education. Yes. You guys see a recurring theme here? Kate Merriman is kind of my ride or die. And she has been with me at so many professional development things. And it is so refreshing to have somebody who is as deeply committed to not just teaching other people, but investing in themselves. And I appreciate that about her, and she is fabulous. If you don't know her, you should. So obviously we're here at NATS. If you're not members, please consider joining. We would love to have you. If it's within your means to do so, or the Pan American Vocology Association, to name a few. OMEA for all of us who aren't aware of the Ohio Music Education Association, or Educators Association. I personally trained classically in undergrad and my dual master's program, but I wanted to offer more to my students because I very quickly realized nobody really wanted to learn classical in my area, at least where I was teaching. So my gateway into contemporary voice was Estel. I'm not an Estel certified teacher. It informs some things, but it provided a larger framework for the work that I do now. Other opportunities include the Shenandoah Summer CCM Institute, the somatic voice work, the LaVetri method, online certificate programs and short courses that are taught through the Voice Study Center, which is now the part of the University of Essex. Fabulous information is there, and they're quite cheap to do those courses. Pursue opportunities to expand your skill set and find your niche. Like I said, I realized a lot of the folks here in Columbus didn't want to study classical music, so I took it upon myself to earn certificates, attend conferences, workshops on contemporary voice ped, and now I'm one of the most well-recognized crossover voice teachers in the city of Columbus, and I'm very grateful for that. But that wouldn't have happened if not for Kate pushing me to continue learning as well. We know as educators that learning never stops. New research is released on an ongoing basis. Keep up and stay relevant. You owe it to yourself and your students. This is where my voice starts really going, sorry. But did you know that NATS has a Wikipedia-style free online resource called Vocopedia? It's at vocopedia.info. Have you visited the NATS Live Learning Center? Level up your teaching and get new ideas and refine your craft for free. There are some paid videos on there, but there's a lot of really, really excellent online content available for free to NATS members, as well as that's just public facing. Especially those of us who primarily trained classically, there is plenty of contemporary pedagogy information out there. If you want to start casting a wider net or teaching other styles more authentically, go after it. We all really, really suck at it at first, typically, and that's okay. embrace sucking for a little bit, okay? And of course, our national conference, our biannual national conference. So I hope to see many of you in San Antonio this summer. New colors, because I was getting tired of the green. So, things to consider now. Your student experience and retention. How are your students doing with you in the lessons? Are your students regularly making progress? Why or why not? If not, that's a problem and it should be addressed. Are there ways that you can make lessons better for each individual student? Yes. Do you know each student's unique learning style? How can you utilize their learning style to make lessons more effective for them? Are your students engaged in their lessons? And how can you keep them engaged if not? Are your students participating in studio recitals and concerts? That's very important for retention. Are students enjoying their lessons? Why or why not? Consider sending out an anonymous Google form where students can provide honest feedback about their experience with you as their teacher. And it can be scary, but it's important to have that honest feedback so that we know exactly where there are deficiencies in the experience that we are providing so that we can try to make corrections. This also, in turn, genuinely demonstrates that you care about your students, their well-being, and their growth, not just to the students themselves, but also to their parents or their guardians if they're minors. Do your students know that you care? Take the time to invest in thank you cards, congrats, get well soon cards, text them. When you know that a student has a performance, one of my now departed dear friends, Kiana Willis, she had an uncanny way of texting me 15 minutes before I would go on stage, and she would say the most gracious things. And that is something that I continue to endeavor to do. We lost her a couple autumns ago to breast cancer. But give your students little goodie bags around holidays, especially the little ones. They love that. Write them a card and give them to them at their concerts and when there are holidays. Find meaningful ways to show up for your students and to show them and their parents that they're not just a paycheck. And if they are just a paycheck, I advise you to look into why that is. Perhaps you're working with the wrong kind of students for your teaching style, and that's okay. I used to love working with very young beginners, and not so much anymore, and that's okay. In this chapter of my teaching, at least. Going the extra mile really, really does make a difference. I want you to consider what materials you're using in lessons and how effective they are for your different students. For your younger students, assess whether or not the materials you're using are engaging or appealing to them. For teenagers, are you using material suitable to their age group? I use a variety of method books, especially with my piano students, ranging from the Royal Conservatory of Music, Faber, Wonder Keys, all of which have different aesthetics and approach the material slightly differently. Reflect regularly on what is or isn't working for you or your students and pivot accordingly. Are you growing as a teacher? Attend workshops, conferences, read journals, research topics you're unclear of. Seek out opportunities that will force you to strengthen your pedagogy. Shadow experienced teachers. Start a teacher group, which I think that's what we're probably going to do. And meet up on Zoom or over lunch from time to time and talk shop. We used to do this thing at Ohio State with Scott McCoy, and he called it, what was it, Vox Lunch? Where we would sit around and we would talk shop with one of the leading experts in vocal pedagogy. And we were so incredibly lucky to have that opportunity to pick his brain. Be creative and never stop learning. What is your students' experience like at your studio? This can look like the atmosphere that the lessons take place. Do you teach in a professional environment? If you have the means to do so, try your best to polish your surroundings. Hide your barking dogs, clean things up. Nobody wants to see dirty socks if they walk into your living room for a voice lesson. Everyone starts somewhere. And you certainly do not have to have a brick and mortar location, especially when you are starting out or if that's not something that appeals to you. Are there perks offered to your students? Do you do recitals, studio outings? I go and get margs and tacos with the adult students um, because I'm no longer in academia and I can do whatever I want in that regard. Um, are there free workshops that you offer to your students? What amenities do you provide, etc.? All of those things that can elevate the experience for everybody. Are your studio policies clearly laid out and enforced? That's really important, especially if you go fully independent, okay? Because people do talk and they'll say, but you made an exception for them, but why not me? Don't put yourself in that situation. Stand firmly on your policies. It is basically a contract, just like our syllabus is within an academic setting. What is the student journey, so the onboarding process, like enrolling in lessons with you? Identify pain points and address them accordingly. And remember, you're providing a professional service, so provide a professional experience. Pricing and longevity. Money can be difficult for people to talk about. However, at the end of the day, you're providing a professional service that is worthy of compensation. You are hopefully the expert in the room. If you're not, send them somewhere else so that they can find the expertise that they deserve. Your clients have come to you for your assistance. That being said, consider the following. How much do you personally want to make from your teaching? Do you want to teach part-time or full-time? What do you personally bring to the bargaining table? What are your credentials or your specialization? What sets you apart? What type of client are you looking for? Children, teens, adults, professionals? And what is the market like in your area? Market research can be tricky to do. If this is something that interests you, feel free to reach out. Is your workload sustainable? And this is something that, once again, Kate Merriman reminds me of all of the time. Autistic burnout is very real. I'm pointing to myself. But are you able to pay all of the overhead, the rental fees, utilities, equipment upgrades, insurance, subscriptions, professional fees, etc., as well as the billing processing fees? Are you able to pay yourself and or your contractors or your employees if you're running a multi-teacher studio? How many hours are you personally able to manage before you begin to burn out? And yes, it's very real, even when you're making over $10,000 a month. I think at one point I was making about $20,000 a month when I was teaching full-time at OU and I was running my sole proprietor studio up here. But burnout. Things to also consider: how or if you want to eventually scale and what that will or could look like for you. Your retirement contributions, your insurance, your taxes, they're gross, but they're important. The IRS will lock you up. Funding professional development opportunities for yourself, as well as continuing education. Andrea, feel free to come off mute. Just FYI, because you're not on like my screen, so when it's my 5 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. This is my business model. This is what I do. Do what makes sense for you and your situation. So there are 3 different ranks of teachers at my studio. Haha, it's kind of like in academia, right? We have assistant, associate, and master's instructors, and they each have 3 different pricing points. My studio profits on average per student not taught by me about $50 per month. So right now the studio, excluding my students, profits about $1,200 a month. I pay myself $40 an hour to ensure that there is always an abundance left over each month to put toward monthly fees and to reinvest into the company itself. And I still walk away making 6 figures. Paying my instructors more than what they make at any other studio in Columbus, as well as teaching adjunct, is important to me and part of my strategy to ensure high retention of teaching talent, as well as to hopefully contribute toward improvements in quality of life for each instructor and provide greater financial stability for them. Because, boom, my mission statement: affording educators the opportunity to scale their private teaching business to suit the needs of their evolving personal lives. So, this is where you can come off mute. And Andrea, how much time do we have?
We have 15 minutes.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yay!
So, come off mute. I want somebody to answer. A, how can you, as a private teacher, utilize a student's positive experience and support to grow your student roster? You're brave, Lauren.
I am brave. How can I utilize just as a kind of in a response to some of the things that you shared? Well, so I liked some of the things I liked that you did were talking about like sort of the organic reach, right? So celebrating some of their achievements or acknowledging some of the things even they're participating in, right? I do this in my studio too with like kind of like a quarterly newsletter, right? Here's what our students have been up to, right? As a celebration. I liked the anonymous feedback form a lot because I think soliciting that that feedback from them. I mean, it just it gives them agency, right? And it I think sometimes it's like, as teachers, it's sort of like, and now I have delivered the word of God. That's not the dynamic that I know I want in my studio, right? It's like you want it to be collaborative, right? So those were a couple that I liked.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else before we move to B? 3, 2, 1. Okay. How can you create a positive experience from day one for new students? Anyone? Oh, somebody put in the chat?
Let's look at the chat.
I answered something.
I don't know. I
In
can't
the
see the chat.
chat, we have them talk with their friends, people they meet at summer programs. In my current experience, that comes from that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
That's right, Matthew. Very, very good.
Setting up those clear policies and procedures and your expectations for day one, I think protects everybody. And it's not as shiny, but that creates the structure for positivity.
Absolutely. And it begins to build that framework of a professional experience as well.
I think related to that, just like even maybe day one or even before, because it's that first engagement with your website. Here's my vision, here's my mission, here's my values, right? And just establishing that expectation. Yeah.
Absolutely. C, how can you help foster a long-term positive relationship with students and their families? What does that look like for any of us currently? Day one, show how passionate you are and find a relation with what they are passionate about. I love that. Who here does student intake forums?
I do.
Yeah? Show of hands? Really important. It lets you learn a lot about your students that they might not be willing to share with you face to face in that first lesson, because it can be very intimidating walking into a new environment with a new person. And so again, to Lauren's comment earlier, it provides them greater agency. Kate? Oh yeah,
Kate,
sorry.
and then
I was just going to answer the how can you foster long-term positive relationship. You had mentioned social media, and even when they're no longer your student, maybe they've gone off to college or they've moved, or for whatever reason, maybe they decided not to continue in voice. One thing that I think is important is, if you are on social media and you follow these students,
chair.
Uh-oh. Somebody's on.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
if you follow these students after they've left you for whatever reason, to continue to celebrate the successes that they post on there, even if it's not something that you're directly related to. You're like, wow, you sound great, or congratulations, just maintaining that positive feedback for them just as a human being, even if they're not your student.
Yeah.
Just coming back to the intake form, right? 3 of my favorite questions actually on my intake form. First, of course, I always ask them about their musical experience or their background of any kind, right? I also want to know about their hobbies or interests, right? So what else are you involved in? You know, one, so I know something about them as a person, right? And two, because then in my teaching, sometimes I'll make connections, right? Like my gymnasts that are using their body in a particular way, right?
Yes.
The other question that I have on my intake form that I like is, how do you learn best, or are there learning differences that I should be aware of?
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else, y'all? 3, 2, 1? No? Okay, and then D, did you learn anything new today, friends? What are some ways that you can improve what you're already doing, and what are your takeaways? Just shoot them out there. You're making me feel like I'm on a lonely island, friends.
I think it is always good to remind ourselves that we have a skill that people want to know and that it's okay to charge for that. Because I think
Yep.
sometimes we get a little humble and feel like we need to justify expense for what a lot of people perceive as a luxury. And we know it's not that. We know that teaching voice is not only about teaching singing, but it's about developing humans. And I think we provide a really important service to the world that is much needed. So I just thank you for sharing what you did about your transparent pricing. I think that's super helpful. Um, I never know. I mean, it's so hard to figure that stuff out. So I think that's really great. So thank you for that, Justin.
Absolutely.
Um,
Constant self-reflection of how each individual student is or isn't improving and what strategies can work for them. So true, Matthew. Yes.
yeah.
We're going to go now to one more slide. Are there any questions that y'all may have for me?
I have a few, but I also have a comment. I
Go
just
for it.
want to say, like, you know, I think we've all seen those environments where teachers are acting in a cutthroat manner, and that's never been my philosophy.
Yep.
And I just really, really like being in a group of people that share that value. And I think it's really evident in your work, Justin, and in the type of community that you're cultivating and participating in. So I just want to say thank you. And, you know, I also want to acknowledge, too, that in being in the community, it's like, it's so valuable to say, hey, this person has expertise there, or this person can offer my student a different perspective or a different modality or something than maybe what they get with me on a regular basis. And so I love being able to refer students, you know, for a coaching or something like that. Or, you know, I think we probably have all hit a point with a student that it just starts to feel kind of stale or it plateaus. And you're like, you know what, I think in this stage of your development, it's best if you go study with somebody else for a little while.
Yeah.
So I really just appreciate having that community.
Absolutely.
And then as far as like questions, this is what I had. So, because I also, early in my teaching career, I was teaching in a commercial space, and I think we all sort of figure out in those experiences things that we like and work for us and things that do not, right? And I'm wondering if there are any lessons that you took from your previous experiences that when you started the studio here, you're like, this is absolutely what I want to do, and this is like really, I want to leave that behind.
Absolutely. And that's reflected in the vision, mission, and value statement that's on the website. It is so important to me to invest in the people who make me money at the end of the day. I am a very firm believer of you need to take care of the people that are taking care of the other clients of your business. But even more so, these are people that I have admiration and respect for. I see them as my equals. And I feel that it really is a privilege to kind of steer this ship. And so to be able to provide opportunity in a way that I wish I would have had when I was at their stage, that is really, really important to me at my core. And I just, at the end of the day, I see every aspect of what I do a privilege. the room that we're in right now, I completely renovated this room by myself. I had a concrete grinder and I was in here last summer sweating. The ventilation in here is terrible. But I ripped out all the old carpet. I leveled all of the concrete. I installed all of this carpet. I repaired and repainted and decorated. And it took me an entire month. But that to be able to get out of bed, to be exhausted at the end of the day, and know that eventually there'd be stuff like this happening in this space. That's so inspiring. That is so important to me. And I knew that it was a long term investment in the sense of community that I wanted to build here. And so I try to move with intentionality in every aspect of what I do. And I hope that that's apparent because this is your first time being here. But from the moment that you walk in the door, I want people to go, oh, wow, this is quite different, and to have a positive experience. And again, I had the privilege of hosting the Ohio board here shortly after I like phase one of this room's renovation process. So thank you, Andrea, for that opportunity too. Did I answer the question
Yeah, that was
adequately?
beautiful. Thank
Excellent,
you.
of course. Anyone else with any remaining time that we've got? I guess not. Well, to that point, thank you so much for attending. Here's my contact information. Always feel free to just reach out to me on socials. And that's me. Yay. Thank you.
Yay.